Starting the speech at one, two, three. What is the hardest part of following disaster mitigation steps provided by the government? Does government insist or force us to relocate our homes that we love for years, or should we just accept our fate by being drowned in tsunamis or crushed from a broken debris building that was wrecked by an earthquake? That's why we, as a proposition team, strongly believe that in disaster-prone areas, the state also the state and also the citizens around that area should prioritize disaster mitigation over relocations. Why do we believe in that? First off, what is disaster mitigation? And why prone areas needed disaster mitigation compared to relocation? Disaster mitigation, the proactive, long-term measures to taken to reduce and eliminate the risk and impact of hazards such as floods, earthquakes, and fires on people, poverty, and the environment. That's why prone areas needed more safer and faster alternatives to survive from a disaster threat. And for relocation, we have to risk families and communities to lose their houses, workplace, and everything they have known and have owned from their original places. Relocation might be way more easier to follow. Just leave your hometown after it got struck by tsunamis, wildfires, and earthquake, right? Studies from the World Bank show that relocated communities consistently suffer higher rates of unemployment, poverty, and psychological distress than those who remain and were protected through mitigation measures. In Indonesia alone, post-relocation surveys from community displaced after the 2010 Merapi eruption revealed that more than 60% had not recovered their pre-disaster income levels 5 years later. Mitigation, by contrast, protects people in place. It says that we will build you a seawall, give you an early warning siren, teach your children what to do and how to do. It respects the bond between people and their land rather than serving it. According to the UN Sendai Framework for Disaster Reduction of 2050 to 2030 about disaster mitigations, that mitigation is more effective than only reacting after a disaster. The government duty is to protect lives and dignity. Mitigation achieves both. That's how different it is between disaster mitigation compared to having a relocation. Currently, many governments see relocation as an easy long-term solution to disasters. By moving people away from dangerous areas, governments believe that they can also completely eliminate the risk and prevent future casualties. At first glance, this policy may appear politically effective. However, relocation often creates new and serious problems that are sometimes just as harmful as the disaster himself. One major problem is that the loss of livelihood. Many communities depend directly on their local environment for survival. Fishermen rely on the sea, farmers also rely on the fertile land, and small local businesses depend on the surrounding community. When people are relocated, they are often separated from the resources and also the economic system that supported them for generations. As a result, many families struggle financially and experience unemployment or poverty after relocation. Therefore, the real moral question is not whether disaster exists, but whether governments should strengthen communities or abandon them. From the side of opposition, they may argue and ask the relocation completely remove people from danger and saves more lives and have more efficient time to survive. For example, seawalls reduce tsunami damages, earthquake-resistant buildings saves lives, flood management system reduce destruction, and take example from Japan and also the Japanese people. Their ideas with Japan their ideas with the Japan earthquake resistant buildings with their advanced technologies survive lots of earthquakes threat from them to collapsing because they are a nation within the ring of fire geographically, making them aware to have a disaster mitigation rather than a relocation since their area size is not that very quite big for another place to relocate, especially when they have a very densely populated areas. The opposition may claim that some of areas are too simply dangerous to inhabit, and on the surface that sounds reasonable too. But let us be precise about what is the debate is actually asking. Not whether relocation ever has a place, but what a government should make their primacy strategy when the disaster threatening communities. We agree in the most extreme cases that immediately slopes and erupting volcano as a coastline being actively swamped by the sea, limited temporary relocation may be the only viable option. The proposition does not deny that. We are not unreasonable too, but those cases are expectation too. They are the edge, not the rule. and it's a deliberate tactics of the option to take the most dramatic cases and presents them as they're the standard reality facing disaster-prone communities around the world. And it is not. The standard reality is that a village that floods every rainy season because there is no proper drainage, a coastal town battered by storms because the mangroves that once protected it were cleared, a hillside community at risk of landslide because there has been no investment in slope stabilization or early warning system. These are not unsolvable problems. These are engineering problems, infrastructure problems, policy problems, and they have solutions to it that do not require upfronting a single family. Places are not machine. People are not machine as well. There are not components in a system that can be shut down in one location that can be started in another without any loss. There are not files that can be copied, moved, and expected to function and then identically in a new directory. And yet, when the government prioritizes relocation over mitigation, that is precisely the assumption buried inside the policy. That person is simply the body that needs to be somewhere safer, and the somewhere safer is good enough. But it is not good enough. A government that jumps off to relocation before it has seriously invested in a protection is not making a difficult decision. It is avoiding one. It is choosing the administratively convenient path over the humanity correct one. And that is not leadership. That is governance. That is a failure of duty dressed up as a particularity. Let us consider that we have. Let us consider what we have established today. We have shown that disaster mitigation is not a theoretical idea. It is a proven strategy that has worked in like countries like Bangladesh, Japan, and the Netherlands. We have shown that every dollar invested in the disaster mitigation saves six in recovery costs. And we have shown that relocation carries a human cost government too often ignored. Broken communities, lost livelihoods, and generational trauma that linger long after the moving trucks have gone. The opposition was just, believe that moving people is the same way as protecting them. But we reject that entirely. Protecting means ensuring a family does not have to choose between their safety and their homes. Relocation says that the place is not worth Mitigation says that these people are worth protecting, and that distinction is at the heart of everything. This debate is about. Relocation may sometimes be necessary, but necessary is not the same as primary. A last resort is not a first response. A government that reaches for displacement before exhausting every avenue of protection has not made a hard decision, it has avoided one. Government must lead with mitigation. They must invest in protection before they consider displacement. They must stand their communities, not simply move them out of the way. For the communities who homes, historians, and the futures and depends on the choices government make, we are proud, united, and we're unwavering in our support for this mission. Thank you so much.